Van Harris doing the lake. Hey, so I was sitting down here in Iowa and I was thinking, I was watching some videos and one of them was tips. And I thought it might be worthwhile to show you or talk about in a video some tips to improve your carving or improve your art. So let's jump right into it. Tip number one, for these are all in my opinion, just do it. Get it done. Get her done. So what do I mean by that? I mean carve. Start a project, finish a project, any project, and work your way through it. Learn something new. There's a reason why you're doing it. In my case, I do it because it's relaxing. I've done it for years, and I enjoy it. Now I have a second reason, is I'm trying to teach and share a little bit of that. I share a little bit of that on the web, but primarily I have to make time for it and just do it. So if you're interested in starting carving, a lot of people say, I'd like to take up carving, but I just either don't know where to start or I haven't had a chance to get started. I'm working on it. Well, quit making excuses. You'll find it's pretty relaxing. And it doesn't have to be wood carving. It can be painting or anything along those lines. You can go over and check out Studio on the Lake, the watercolor portion of it. I'm kind of trying to do the same thing over there. Jordy has his two channels, three really if you think about it. He's doing the Facebook group. He's doing his main Carving Fusion, and then he has a third channel that he's put up that just Let Art Find You, and that's a great moniker in this challenging world. You know, when you look around at all the crap going on in our lives and all that sort of stuff, it's nice to just have something where you can get away. So that's kind of a segue into tip number two. So tip number one, just get her done. Go out and do it. Tip number two is have your own workspace. Okay, by workspace, I mean you have to have a place where you can set your stuff up. Hopefully you can leave your stuff. There's nothing worse than trying to clean stuff up at the end. So put a little corner in the basement, put a little corner in the attic, corner of a bedroom maybe, but have some place where you can set up your work and do it. And as you saw those photos that were going down underneath there, you saw the old studio before it burned down, and then where I went out into the Stuga, which is another little outbuilding we have here on the lakefront. And awaiting building in the spring, I have a place where I can go and carve. And in that, I've set it up to be comfortable. I mean, obviously you need heat. The old studio had a stove. The new studio has a heater. The new one will have HVAC. I'm going to go whole hog, so I'm cool in the summer, warm in the winter, and I will put a stove in there because I do like the ambiance of a wood stove. But you need to have some place you can carve. I do my painting in one of the bedrooms, in the corner of one of the bedrooms, and I will move that out to the Stuga as soon as we get the wood carving studio rebuilt in the spring. But tip number two, have a place where you can carve. There's nothing worse than, and this is a double-edged sword, having to take everything down, put it neatly away, and then break it out. And sometimes you just won't want to do it simply because you don't want to go through the hassle of setting everything up. So if you've got a place that you can set aside and you can do your art or your carving, that's better yet. My wife has griped for years and years, and the many times in the military moving around, she says she's never had a space, a garage that she could actually put her car in. And thinking back on it, that's actually true because I took that over as a workspace and that sort of thing. So be generous, be kind of others, and when you're setting up your place where you need to work, but keep in mind that if you have to clean it all up and put it away, you won't want to go out there and do it. You'll think, I'll have to go do that. Nah, I don't really have time to mess with that. The downside to that, and I can attest to this, I'm messy. I leave crap out, but the downside is you don't clean it up. So tip number three, and I think this one's really important, and you saw it go by, use professional tools. You can certainly get by wood carving with a knife. You can get by with using a pocket knife or a kitchen knife or anything. But if you use professional tools, you will be much happier. Professional tools cut better, they last longer, and they do what they're designed to do. You probably saw, if you're a subscriber to the channel, the Harbor Freight $9 tools that I bought and tried to carve with. You could carve with those, but it's bad. It's really bad. Many years ago, I'm a musician also, but I thought I would buy used instruments from pawn shops and try to sell them. But it turned out that nobody wanted the old, nasty, grungy one. And the reason is it looked old, nasty, and grungy. And they wanted the perfectly shiny instrument. Well, why was the one shiny? Because it was a piece of crap. And the old one that was all grungy was a good tool, and it lasted and did what it was supposed to do, and therefore it got used. So get professional tools. Tip number 4, do it daily. And even if you only go out there for a half an hour, and this kind of leads into tip number 3 about having your own space. So if you have a space, you can pop in, you can grab your morning coffee. I go out pretty much every morning when I'm home, generally, and I'll carve for 2 or 3 hours or 3 or 4 hours and that sort of thing. But I couldn't do that if I had to go out and set everything up. So if you have it set up, do it daily. Go out, take a break whenever you need a time. Everybody has time in their day, no matter how busy you are, and do a little bit of it. It's better than if you plan on Saturday I'm going to carve for 9 hours straight. After an hour or two, I start to lose interest and kind of want to go do something else. And that kind of works into, if you do it every day, you have a fresh perspective from the day before. Like carving an hour is much more productive than carving a marathon session. Now, the exception to that would probably be commission work. You've bought into doing a piece that you may or may not be interested in doing. You're doing it and you're getting paid for it, and it's got to be carved to an expectation. It's a lot more fun to go out for an hour and just carve what I want to carve. So the videos you see in the background are just some I threw in here so I could keep this narrative going. But if you do it in a bulk session, you say, I'm going to save everything up till Saturday, then you kind of got pressure to produce something over 4 or 5 hours on a Saturday. And you don't want to get into that kind of thing. You want it to be a relaxing deal. Take your coffee, go out, or just before bed, go out and carve, paint, do whatever for maybe an hour, 2 hours. So that leads us into my favorite tip number 5. And I'm going to do this cat here. Steal ideas. By all means, steal stuff from other people. My imagination's not that great. It's got little quirks and stuff. I get a lot of time driving back and forth where I think about a project that I'm doing or a project I want to do. I take suggestions from you guys on things I want to do, but by all means, steal ideas from other people. So, I've been watching carving stuff for years and that sort of thing, and when I watch someone, I think, wow, that's pretty amazing. I think I'm going to rip that off. And then secondary to that, I'll look at it and say, wow, I wouldn't have done that. I would have changed that piece right there. So here's the deal. When you steal something, if you take your references and that sort of thing, and I highly encourage you to use references, take those, carve along those lines, and you're going to end up with something that's not exactly like the reference. I've told you before, my son is a professional artist. He actually went to a high-dollar art school, and he told me, Dad, copyrighted material, you only need to change 10 to 20% before they can no longer claim it and sue you for that. So you can steal it, and here's the one that's not in there. Carve with a friend. If you got a friend, make sure you carve with a friend. Hey, so anyway, so use references, steal those references, take them down from the web, take them from other people. Just Carve Rob said something about Gnomegeddon here last fall. It looked like there were 10 or 15 carvers right after I started carving gnomes. I don't know if it was a Christmas time or whatever, but they started carving gnomes. So steal. Here's a big one. Don't be a perfectionist. If you're a perfectionist, you're never going to get anything done. So you're always going to get to a certain point and you're going to think, man, I screwed that up. I wish I had done this or the other. So that goes back to number one. Just get her done. Finish it. Go ahead and finish the piece. If you must carve another piece, go ahead and carve it, but don't throw that piece away. Save that piece, or put that piece aside. If you're getting into a bind on something, or I'm getting to something, I'll put it aside. I might put it aside for a day or two, a week, a couple months, maybe a couple years. I've got carvings that are in boxes that I haven't looked at for 10 years, and I'll pull those out. And the ones at that time that I didn't like, or I thought I screwed up because I was being a perfectionist, turn out to have pretty unique qualities in them. So don't be too hard on yourself, and take into account other people's opinions. I mean, listen to what they have to say, but don't take it to heart. But do listen. If they suggest you change something, think about it, and if that fits, use it. If it doesn't, let it go. But don't be too hard on yourself. Finish the piece even though you think it's not right. All right, so tip number 7. Take a lesson, and this one is interesting. Any lesson, any art lesson, and since we're talking art, that kind of makes sense that it would need to be art. But it doesn't have to be a carving lesson. It can be a drawing lesson. It can be a watercolor lesson. It can be any kind of lesson that you want. But take it from another artist. Either watch a series online. I'm not talking about watching tutorials. I'm talking about taking an actual lesson. And an actual lesson in real life is worth its weight in gold. If you're a carver, you could always improve by drawing, improving your drawing. I say I don't draw very well. Jordy claims he doesn't draw very well. Just Carve Rob talks about not being able to draw things very well. But working in 3 dimensions as carving is, as opposed to a 2-dimensional, they seem to do better. And I seem to think the same thing, but we can all improve by taking a lesson. What you get by doing that is you get to see other people, you get to interact with other people, and you get to see different tips and techniques and ways to do things. And there are tons of art lessons out there locally. I would suspect just about anywhere that you're at. I mentioned my mother-in-law before. She took watercolor painting lessons for years, and from different people because she enjoyed doing that. Unfortunately, she didn't save any of her paintings, so we don't have a reference for a lot of that stuff. But take a lesson, look at someone whose stuff that you admire, and you will get information out of that, and you get the opportunity to interact with that artist in a one-on-one or in a small group setting. Tip number 8, keep everything and sign everything. So it goes back to the perfectionist thing. If you don't think it's right, put it away. But by all means, sign it and keep it so you can look at it later on and you'll find out that it's not quite as bad as you thought it might be. And we're going to run into tip number 9. Let your style develop on its own. I know you're going to get into this if you're into, or you're already into it. You're thinking, man, I want to do stuff like that guy or that gal does. And that's all neat and fine and dandy. But let your own style develop and don't try to mutate it too much, but keep going. Tip number 10, don't take tips from other people. That's kind of a misnomer to put at the end of this, but take everything that you hear with a grain of salt. If it fits, the shoe fits, wear it, that kind of thing, and the whole 9 yards. So, but don't get too wrapped up about not doing something in a certain order, not having a place to do your art, that sort of thing. Take it as you go. Take the tips if they work for you, and then continue to. The most important thing is that you're doing the art. So, if we're going to recap, and I've rambled long enough, you paid attention to this. Number 1, just do it, get her done, finish it up. Have a dedicated workspace. Use professional tools, and I can't emphasize that enough. Do it daily if you can. Steal ideas, my favorite. Don't be a perfectionist, and take a lesson, any lesson. Keep everything you make, don't destroy anything, and sign it. Let your work develop on its own. And don't get too wrapped up if you're looking at the top 10 things you must do to do this. That's just somebody's opinion. Like, this stuff is all my opinion. Hey, thanks for watching. Keep supporting the channel. Like, comment, and subscribe. This has been Ben with Studio on the Lake.